Welcome to Biology, Organs, Functions and Glossary. In this video you'll be learning about the organs and their functions, but also how to try and remember them for your glossary. We'll start with our circular system. In our circular system, the heart is a very important organ. It's in fact a muscle, even though it belongs to the circular system. This muscle can contract, aanspannen, and as it's contracting it becomes smaller, and all the blood which is present within the lung will be pushed all over the body. Here we see, as the muscle contracts, the blood will be pushed through this particular vessel. This vessel we call the main artery. In Dutch this is hoofdslagader. Because in biology we love difficult words, we have called this one, because it's a very special one, all the blood which comes into your body has to flow through this artery. It's called the aorta. And in Dutch it's not very different, it's called the aorta, just pronounced slightly different. Aorta. Arteries are in fact nothing more than a blood vessel indicating a certain direction. An artery lets the blood flow from the heart towards the rest of the body. So arteries from the heart towards the rest of the body. Now, as we've learned in a circular system, the blood which is pushed away also has to come back, or else it wouldn't be a circle. So blood coming back flows through the blood vessel indicated with blue. Here the blood comes back into the heart. This one we call the main vein. In Dutch that would be hoofdader. As the aorta we also have a difficult name for this one, the vena cava. And in Dutch that would be the holle ader. And veins are just like arteries, blood vessels with a certain direction. And unlike the arteries, the blood flows from the body parts towards the heart. So arteries from the heart towards the rest of the body, and veins from the rest of the body towards the heart. So we know about the heart and the blood vessels, the arteries and the veins. Now, a respiratory system, such a lovely word. We know it's about breathing. Through our nostrils and our mouth, we can breathe in. This way we get in oxygen into our body. And as we breathe out carbon dioxide. We release the carbon dioxide which we have accumulated in our body as we breathe out. Also through the nostrils and through the mouth. The air we breathe in travels down a windpipe. In Dutch this would be luchtpijp. As you can see, wind, not exactly lucht, but wind and lucht and pipe and pijp are quite similar. The windpipe branches into a bronchus. And as you can see, it branches into two. And the multitude from bronchus is bronchi. So the windpipe branches into two bronchi. And in Dutch it's not very different. In Dutch it's called a bronchus. And these bronchi lead the windpipe towards the lungs. These beautiful big lungs. You can see on the picture we have two lungs. Also inside of your body, left and right, we have two lungs. So one lung, two lungs. And in Dutch it's not much different. Long, longen. Now, you can also feel it on your own body, but your lungs, they are soft and they can actually dent very easily. They are protected. They're kept big by ribs. One rib, two ribs, and And below your lungs you have a diaphragm. This is a muscle. As you breathe in, your belly will become big. This is your diaphragm moving down, pulling your lungs down, so your lungs will become bigger and it sucks in air. Your diaphragm separates your body from your lungs and from your intestines. In Dutch, this is called your middenrif because it's in the middle of your torso, of your trunk would be the better word. Here you can see it can move up and down if you breathe in. Belly becomes bigger, your diaphragm moved down, and as you breathe out, your belly becomes smaller again and your diaphragm moved up again. Now for our skeletal system. Our skeletal system consists of many bones, but we'll limit it to discussing the most important ones. Our skull, or in Dutch it would be schedel, doesn't only give our head its beautiful shape, but it also protects one of our most fragile organs, the brain. So it's not only structure and shape, but also protection of fragile organs. But the skull, a very important bone. As we've just discussed, around our respiratory system, which is actually the lungs are very soft, so we have our ribs covering them, and these ribs in formation are called a rib cage, and in Dutch this is ribbenkast. Rib, ribben, cage, not exactly kooi but kast, also very similar to the Dutch. Well, a skeletal system also protects very, very important other organs, our spine, and we have these vertebrae, or multitude of vertebrae. You see that we have a row of these stacking on top of each other in our spine. These are, in Dutch, wervels. They start from just on the base of our skull, just below our skull. They start, these vertebrae, and go all the way down to your buttocks, because we have a tiny tail, which is also an extension of our vertebrae. Altogether, this whole elongated line forms our spine, or backbone, or vertebral column. Many words for describing one thing. In Dutch, our vertebral column, or our spine, is called a ruggengraat. You see in backbone, back, not exactly rug, en graat, als in een vissengraat, a bone. Backbone is ruggengraat. And vertebral column, as vertebrae are wervels, and column, wervelkolom. Now, our nervous system is all over our body, but we'll be discussing the most important organs of the nervous system. As we've just seen in our skeletal system, our brain, ofwel de hersenen. These process all the stimulations working on the body. For example, moving your thumb, seeing and smelling what's going on around you, feeling how warm or cold the room is around you, and also how comfortable you are in your chair if something uncomfortable is poking into your back. Everything gets processed by your brain. And your spinal cord connects the rest of your body with your brain. All the nerves running in every end of your body is connected through your spinal cord. So that's why it has to be protected very carefully by the vertebral column. And running through your whole body, because your spinal cord only runs through your back, through your spine, the nerves are actually the ones placed throughout your whole body, in your fingertip, for example, or the tip of your toe. There you would find a nerve. And in Dutch, this is zenuw. Spinal cord, spinal, spine, ruggen. En cord is niet exactly merg, maar ruggenmerg for spinal cord. Now, as we've discussed in another video, what if your spinal cord would be not dislocated, but interrupted, for example, by accident? The nerves running through the lower end of your spinal cord wouldn't be able to send their stimuli towards the brain. So even though your foot might be very cold, your brain doesn't register it. So you don't feel pain. You can't move your foot anymore. Your legs are senseless. That's probably what happened to someone in a wheelchair. Not in all cases, but probably. Now, if this interruption of the spinal cord happens a little higher, you would also lose feeling in your torso. For our digestive system, there are many organs in our digestive system. So let's go at them one at a time. When you swallow food, after you've chewed it in your mouth, made it into small bits and pieces by your teeth, you swallow it. There it will travel down your throat through your gullet or esophagus. In Dutch we call this the slokdarm. In English we usually use the word gullet or esophagus. Your esophagus has this specific movement which pushes food down, so food doesn't come back up too easily. This big brown lobe thing, this is your liver. It filters your food, but it also produces, there's a little organ attached to it, which you can't see here, but this little organ produces bile. This bile helps you digest fats. But let's, for now, just remember the liver. The big brown thing is called liver, and in Dutch this is the lever. In general, this filters your body. So, if you drink alcohol or if you would smoke, this would be like an attack on your liver, because it has to work harder. It has to filter your body from these evil toxins. Now, after you've swallowed something, it passes into your stomach, ofwel je maag. Your stomach is a strong muscle which is like a water pouch. And because it's a muscle, it can churn and knead your food. Het kan je voedsel kneden while it's mixing it with this strong acid. This way your food becomes dissolved, and rather of these chunks of food you have this, like, someone gave me the example of a smoothie. This is what you can recognize if you were to vomit. Often they're not chunks of food anymore. It is this like smoothie. After a couple of hours that it's been in your stomach and everything has been dissolved, it passes along. Oh wait, apparently not yet. The pancreas, and in Dutch this is the alvleesklier. The English word might not be easy, but the Dutch word isn't easy either. The pancreas. This also adds juices to your food, so it is digested more easily, because everything has to be made small for your body to be able to absorb it. Your liver and your pancreas add juices towards your food, so it can be digested. They do this in the small intestine, because after it's been into your stomach, it's released into the small intestine. In Dutch, this is the dunne darm. As you can see, it's actually quite long. It can become up to 5 meters. So it's not een kleine darm, it's the dunne darm, even though in English we say small intestine. It's called small because it has a smaller diameter. As you can see, I marked 2 places into the small intestine, and I'll tell you more about that in a second, about these 2 words. But the first place is where the liver and the pancreas are actually adding these juices. And the second part, where it has to run all through your body, this is where the food is actually getting absorbed. After it's been through this big maze of which is your small intestine, it comes into the large intestine. And I marked it very far to the right, but it actually comes, you see where the grey large intestine starts at the left? This is where it gets into the large intestine. It's called large intestine not because it's long, but it has a big diameter. It's more fat. So, small intestine, dunne darm, large intestine, dikke darm. And the large intestine, the water is absorbed back into your body. So, when it's still in the small intestine, you have this gooey, which could be your vomit. Even more juices are added in the stomach and the liver and the pancreas. And then in the large intestine, everything is absorbed back. So when you finally go to the toilet, you have this dryish feces. Now, quickly in between, you saw these difficult words when I talked about the small intestine and large intestine. The intestines actually have many different parts, and that's why they get an extra little page. This little part above, where the juices were added, is called the duodenum. This big rolled up part, which looks like a huge maze, is called the ileum. These 2 together, they are the small intestine. So the part above is called the duodenum, and the part below, the rolled up part, is the ileum. Now, where the food from the small intestine enters the large intestine, this part I circled here, is called the cecum. The cecum normally digests plant material, but we only have a very small cecum, so we can't digest plant material very well. A cow, he would have a very long cecum. So a cow, a herbivore, a plant eater, they have a long cecum, so they can digest plant material. This little worm-like thing hanging from our cecum is called the appendix. In humans, it doesn't have a real function anymore. Often, when someone says, ik heb een blinde darmontsteking, they think, oh, the cecum is called the blinde darm. I'm sorry. They say it wrong, because it's not the cecum which is infected, but it's the appendix which is infected. And in Dutch, this is het wormvormig aanhangsel. So, blinde darmontsteking is not an infection on their cecum, but is an infection on their appendix, which is about to blow, in matter of fact. Now, the rest of the large intestine, well, not the rest, because there's a little extra part. The big long part is called the colon. Here all the water gets absorbed. And our rectum is where all the undigested and unabsorbed parts of our food get stored. And stored until it's a decent time to go to the toilet. Or else we would be continuously excreting feces. So we can store it for a little while, let's say a couple of hours, until an appropriate time to go to the toilet. And finally, our food, our undigested food, gets excreted through our anus, which is a muscle. It's anus, you can like tighten it and loosen it a little, so you can actually hold up your feces were it to be very urgent. And now these parts together, the cecum, the appendix, the colon and the rectum, they form our large intestines. So the small intestines consist of two parts, and our large intestines consist of a couple of parts. And that were our intestines. Now, our body in a whole has a couple of parts. Like we have legs and we have arms. We also and we have a head. Don't forget our head. We also have a part called torso, or the trunk. And in Dutch, this is je romp. Like, trek mijn arm niet van mijn romp af. So that's our trunk. Our body without our head, without our arms, and without our legs is our trunk or torso. In our trunk, we have the diaphragm, or the middenrif. You see it's in the middle of your body. It separates your body in two parts. The thorax. In Dutch also the borstholte. Everything above the diaphragm. So here you have your windpipe and your lungs and your rib cage. These are placed in the thoracic cavity, ofwel de borstholte, the place in your thorax. These are all above the diaphragm. Well, below our diaphragm, we have the abdomen, or the abdominal cavity, the buikholte. And in our buikholte, all different kinds of organs are placed. For instance, our intestines. Now, some organs aren't very specific on where they're placed. For example, your gullet, ofwel je slokdarm. It can be running through your thorax and your abdominal cavity. Or perhaps it stops right in time. I'm not sure. You should check. You can feel it if you drink something really cold or warm. You can feel the coolness or the warmth running through your body, and see where it stops, above or below your diaphragm. You can test this at home. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you can name and remember all the organs in all the organ systems now, and if not, feel free to ask questions.